Something that you will notice, kind of this same pattern, is how long people stay in office. And this is a fundamental part of the problem. What you see is the Senate is in the little gold here, the House in the black. What you're seeing is people are staying longer and longer. Even after 2010, where you had this watershed election and we threw the bums out and the rest of it, 85% of congressional districts did not change party. Because the reality is the system is so broken, the gerrymandering, the rest of it, you don't have any choices. People say to you, well, vote for the other guy. It doesn't matter who the other guy is. The parties are only interested in staying in power. And as long as that is their sole goal, they're going to do what's going to keep them in power. And telling you the truth is not going to keep them in power. Because the harsh reality is no one is going to vote for the guy who tells the truth. When someone says, oh, by the way, you think you're getting Medicare, that's not going to happen. You want a home mortgage deduction? That's not going to happen. You want 99 weeks of unemployment? That's not going to happen. You want an export-import bank, a Department of Education, EPA? None of that stuff's going to happen. At some point, those things will all stop. We can either stop them voluntarily or they're going to be stopped by the outside. It is the classic golden rule. He who has the gold makes the rules. One day, we're going to have to go hat in hand to China or whoever it is and say, we really need a few $1 trillion here. Can you help a brother out? And they're going to say, yeah, but here are the rules. From now on, Medicare kicks in at 75. Social Security kicks in at 75. It only goes to these people. You're getting rid of all this stuff. They are going to determine how we save money instead of us making rational decisions today. And that is, unfortunately, I think, the future we face. Now, why do all these people want to be in office? So this is something that's kind of fascinating to me. And if you do a little bit of analysis, I think this is kind of interesting. Between 2004 and 2009, if you look at the average American family and you take all the stuff that they own and you subtract all the stuff that they owe, they really were no further ahead or behind than they were 5 years earlier. Compare that to the real 1%, the members of Congress. 24% of members of Congress during that time had their net worths double. Almost more than 1 in 3 of them had their net worth go up by at least 50%. Understand the people that had it double started at $850,000 in net worth. 5 years later, they were worth $3.6 million. They had an increase of about $2.7, $2.8 million over the 5 years, and they make $174,000 a year. Now, we know what geniuses these people are with money, right? I mean, they're just better at this than you and I. But how does this happen? And let me also explain this. I've never seen this really explained this way, but you can go to opensecrets.org. They have all this is based on is the financial disclosure forms that come from the members of Congress themselves. All right? So this is just the stuff they tell you about. Charlie Rangel, he's got the place down in the Dominican Republic that he forgot about, collected money on all those. Yeah, none of that stuff counts. Okay? The stuff they give to their kids and they're hiding, none of that stuff counts. This is what they fess up to. And what I did when I did this is I didn't just say in aggregate. I looked person by person. Okay? So these were actual increases that these people had. As of 2011, basically half these people were millionaires. The average net worth of a member of Congress is about $2.6 million. Now think about this for a moment. If you run for office, your life's a living hell. Okay? I mean, it's hard work. You're out there all the time. You're begging for money. People are calling your mama ugly. Everything you ever did wrong or they thought you did wrong, that's coming up. If you've already got an average of $2.6 million, why do you go through that so that you can make $174,000 a year? And it's my opinion that there are two kinds of people who run for office. The first is the people who really want to do the right thing. They are the true believers, and they think, quite frankly, they're smarter than everybody else. Once you're there for a couple years, you should actually figure out if you're smarter than everybody else, that you're not going to be able to get anything done. But the second group of people is they realize that there's an awful lot of money in this. The reality is they're both exactly the same person. They are effectively narcissistic personalities. These are people who believe the world revolves around them. And those, unfortunately, are the people that we have in government. And the reality is this job's worth a whole lot more than $174,000 a year. So how do these guys do it? First thing, these guys get the best stock market returns out there. There was a study done in 2004, I'll probably butcher his name, but Professor Ziobrowski. He looked at 6,000 trades that were done by members of the U.S. Senate. What he found was this. The average person underperforms the market every year because they have no idea what they're doing. Corporate insiders trading only their own company's stock beat the market by 5% a year. Members of the U.S. Senate beat the market by 12% a year. Not only do they beat the market, the year before they buy a stock and the year after they sell a stock, the stock underperforms. So they have absolutely perfect timing. This paper won Paper of the Year in the Journal of Quantitative Analytics, the rest of it, I mean, this was a serious academic work. In 2009, he testified in front of Congress. He said, I don't know if this is a good idea or a bad idea, I don't know if it should be legal or illegal, but there is zero chance that this is random chance. You guys are trading on non-public information. And at that point, he also had done the calculation to find out that the House of Representatives beats the market by about 5% a year because they don't have as much power as the individual senator because there's more of them. There was something called the Stock Act that was in front of the House of Representatives. 9 members of Congress signed on to co-sponsor this. And basically, it was to stop this kind of stuff. 9 people cared. The bill died. Last year, a guy named Peter Schweitzer wrote a book called Throw Them All Out. He talked about that particular study, some other studies, and then he had some more contemporary examples. He had examples of Nancy Pelosi, John Boehner, and then the biggest one in his book was a guy named Spencer Baucus. Spencer Baucus, and again, I'll use the word alleged here, it's being investigated, whatever, but Spencer Baucus is a Republican from Alabama. He was in a meeting in September of 2008 with the head of the Treasury, the head of the Federal Reserve. Select members of Congress came to that meeting. It was so secret you couldn't even bring your cell phone to the meeting. They were told how bad things really were. According to Schweitzer, again, allegedly, what did he do? He went out and he bought a bunch of put contracts on the S&P 500, betting that the market was going to go down. That turned into hundreds of thousands of dollars in profit. Okay? Again, this is currently being investigated, but you'll be happy to know, yes, he won his primary battle. He's going to be back there next fall. Okay? This is how bad this is. So, Schweitzer comes out with this book he gets on 60 Minutes. Everyone's outraged. Oh, I'm outraged. All right? They passed the Stock Act, but the Stock Act is totally watered down. The reality is this is not going to affect anything because part of the problem with trying to create a rule to stop these types of things is once the rule is written, now I can find ways around the rule. And until there's another crisis, you're not going to go and rewrite the rules. So the guy who goes second always has an advantage. Plus, there's so much money in it, you can hire lawyers and you can make this work. Plus, Congress is the people who fund the SEC, who are the people that have to look into Congress. So if you're at the SEC and you hack off the wrong person and you get your budget cut, that's not a good thing for you. The bottom line is none of this is really going to change. But let's say they lost all of this. What do they got left? Well, they got the land deals going on out there. Dennis Hastert was a high school wrestling coach. He goes into Congress. He leaves Congress. He's worth more than $10 million. How does this happen? Well, one of the ways it happened is he did himself a pretty good land deal. He bought some land. A few miles away, believe it or not, the government put a road through. He sold his land, made millions of dollars in profit. Heath Schuler's got land deals. Nancy Pelosi's got land deals. Harry Reid's got land deals. Rick Perry did a land deal with Michael Dell. All these, and none of this stuff's illegal. But it's a way of funneling campaign cash to people. You go back to Hillary Clinton's cattle futures days, all right? This is their story, and they're sticking to it. Hillary Clinton did one cattle futures trade in her life, okay? She made $100,000 and then never did it again. Does that all make sense to people? Is that what you would do if you made $100,000 in your first trade? Okay, a guy named Larry Williams, who's a very famous commodities trader, went back and he looked at those trades. He said, zero chance that that is what actually happened. But what you find out is the person that was her broker was tied into Tyson Foods. Tyson Foods was and again, I'll use allegedly for all this, but it's pretty much out there. Okay, Tyson Foods was the largest employer at the time in the state of Arkansas, and her husband was governor. Again, you can draw whatever dots you want. Maybe it's random chance, maybe it's coincidence, maybe she's the greatest trader that ever lived. All those things could be possible, but I would be somewhat suspicious. They have relatives who are lobbyists. They manipulate campaign funds. Let me kind of run you through a few of these. I'll do this kind of quick. There's a group called CREW. It's Committee for Responsibility and Ethics in Washington, I think is what it stands for. So they did a study, and what they find out that 82 members of Congress are paying their relatives basically with campaign funds. 44% of them have family members who lobby or employed in governmental affairs, which means they're lobbyists. 90 members have paid a family business employer or associated nonprofit. So what's happening is you raise all this campaign cash, and it really is a big slush fund, and you can use it for anything you want. 20 members used their campaign money to contribute to a family member's political campaign, not like this is a little class. 14 members charged interest on personal loans. This is a classic. There's a woman, Grace Napolitano. 1998, she loaned her campaign $150,000. She charged her campaign 18% interest. So every year she makes 18% on the money comes out of the campaign. It's a pretty sweet deal. Cora McCaskill leased her plane to the campaign for $300,000. I mean, it's all there. This is a gold mine. 38 members earmarked. This is the one that blew me away. 38 members earmarked money from your tax money to a business that either their relative worked in or controlled. One of the guys alone gave money to two businesses that his two sons owned. Okay. That's criminal. And this is the thing. All of these things are legal. And when I did the radio show several weeks ago, a couple months ago now, I said something at the very end of the show I'd never thought before, but it struck me as really, really important and to some extent profound. As long as they live as kings, we will live as subjects. We have created a class of people who are not subject to the same laws we are. Congress doesn't participate in Social Security. They're not part of Obamacare. They're not subject to the Americans with Disabilities Act, minimum wage, OSHA, any of that stuff. They are above all of that. We can't allow that to happen. But we have created a political class that gets so much benefit from having that power and being part of the political class, they'll never give it up, which means they will never take hard stands, which means I don't care who you vote for. Will things be somewhat different if it's Romney versus Obama? Sure. But will any of them cut spending? No. Because you're never going to have 60 senators, 218 members of the House, and a president who all step up and say, hey, let me get rid of some of my power. That's never going to happen, and that is why you must hit a wall. They get insider stock, they get board positions, and so much more. And again, the bottom line is these people are never going to give that up.